If you have ever played Battleship, you probably think that there is no specific way to win, as it is purely based on lucky placement and guessing, except you can use certain strafes to work out where your opponent's ships may be, keeping the number of guesses always as low as possible, as well as placing your ships in certain places to avoid being hit. In this video, I will split up key tactics in terms of ship placement and guessing games. So, here's how you can win Battleship every time. Firstly, ship placement. The most commonly guessed columns in Battleship are 1, 5 and 10, as being evenly split 3 ways on the board falls onto these 3 columns. As a result, trying to put few to no ships in these locations is crucial to evading guesses, which allows you more time to sink opponent's ships. In fact, the whole idea of vertical columns is very important. If you place ships more vertically, it will help them get hit less. Horizontal ships take up a lot more space over more columns, giving your opponent an advantage to find them sooner. When someone is scanning their board for your ships, they will tend to look across the board, more than they look up or down for a guess, meaning they will start looking at horizontal spaces and gaps naturally when determining where they think your ships are. Once your ship has been found, the natural guess for your opponent is to guess in numerical order. This is just how our brains are taught to function. For example, when you're taught to count, you say 1, 2, 3, 4. Therefore, when your opponent guesses, they'll most likely guess the next horizontal number after the hit location on your ship. If ships are horizontal, A1, A2, A3, A4, they'll be sunk in a hurry. Secondly, keep your ships in closer knit groups. For instance, if they sink a ship at F6, I6, their next guesses will be somewhere further away from that, as if they gained a big victory in that one location, it's now time to move somewhere else. So, keeping your ships closer together will result in being hit and therefore sunk less. Just be sure not to put your ships so close together that their squares are touching horizontally or vertically. Otherwise, when your opponent hits one ship and starts guessing other squares around it, they might start destroying a second ship in the process. Thirdly, leave some empty space. This is great and funny to watch your opponent guessing all these spots in your gap area and getting annoyed that they can't find your ships. They do this because surely this giant gap on their boards between the white pegs must contain a ship. It's our brain's natural desire to give symmetry to things. If there's a bunch of white pegs at the bottom, then there must be a ship to hit and put red pegs at the top. This is the way our brains work, so it greatly confuses your opponents every time to leave a bit of extra space. But if you're able to position your ships optimally as to avoid being sunk quickly, how do you guess your opposition correctly to capitalize on this? We know that the smallest ship is 2 squares long, which means we can use parity to up the chances. By imagining the board as checkered with black and white squares, by guessing only odd rows or only even rows, we can reduce the number of guesses it takes to reach each ship. As a result, when starting, you want to fire at the center of the board to increase chances of hitting a ship, and in particular, hitting on the most popular column 1, 5 and 10. So, combining these, an ideal area to start would be centrally around column 5. As well as this, guessing in horizontal patterns means you up the odds of hitting ships as they are more likely to be placed this way. However, if you do miss in the same segment twice, move to a different location, as the chances of you being wildly off are much greater than chances of you missing a ship by 1 or 2 squares. So, using this, when you actually hit a ship, there are important ways to narrow down the process. Knowing most players play horizontally, guess the 2 squares to the left and right first, before going up and down, which allows you to then sink the ship in subsequent turns. After sinking these ships, continue using parity to make guesses, particularly in another section of the board, as the probability of another ship being in a totally different region is greater than all ships being in one certain location. Given that you are now a casual Battleship professional, a donation in the form of a like and subscribe would be much appreciated.